It's about the requirement management and the definition of the requirements with all the necessary process steps that are integrated here, also available on top of the pure management of the requirements. So in the core, it's possible here. You see in the screenshot a requirement hierarchy. It's in the list view here. You see it's a hierarchy of requirements. For sure, as a customer, you define your own attributes, the properties here that are important for you as a company or even project specific. You define the attributes and properties that you want to maintain here with the requirements. So each object here in this list view is a separate requirement. It has a certain version. Each line here as a requirement object is maintained in the system with the versions. You can provide comments, ask colleagues to comment on those requirements, collect all those comments and further work on it, and finally release the requirements as part of the requirement model. You can start an impact and lineage analysis from each of those requirements. So that's where we talk about requirement-driven development. What are the objects that are impacted? If I change a requirement, I can get directly a view on that using a graph view, if you like, here where you see all the impacted objects that can go further down in the process inside EPD, for example, to functional objects and systems engineering, if you want to use that, or directly to S4, for example, to a document, a bill of material, a material master, and so on. And you can work in parallel. Different people can work in parallel on such a requirement model. You can think about a very large structure, hundreds or even thousands of requirements in such a model. For sure, you can also structure it in a way that you reference between different models. Not everything has to be in one model. But if it's all in one model, you can also work in parallel in the structure concurrently, and the system is helping you to merge all those changes that were done by different people at the same time. And there's for sure also here an import and export functionality. You can import Word files into such a and derive out of it such a structure of requirements. And you can also use RecIF as a standard format to import and export requirement models with partners, development partners, suppliers, or with your customer. A process view, basically, I briefly described it already. You can start from the definition, the specification of the requirements here. It's not only text that can be maintained per requirement, also you can add pictures, tables, and so on. It's a formatted text there. You can evaluate the requirements there, work with colleagues, commenting. Finally, it's approved the requirement. A new version is created as soon as you release it to all the colleagues, and you can share it internally and externally. For that, you can also use the integration we have inside EPD with the collaboration solution. So you can pick certain requirements, add them to a collaboration, and then it's sent out to the partner, to an external one. From there, you can either directly access the requirements if you provide the access rights to the partner, but you can also decide just automatically add the details in a PDF file so the partner can access all the content being offline from the system, from the requirement management as such, but can still read all the content that is provided on top of the requirements in a PDF file. Yeah, as said, you can integrate with S/4HANA via links, so you can navigate, have all the traceability in there in the system to, for example, a bill of material, to a specification or to a document, and see also before you do changes via the impact analysis, what are the possibly impacted objects when you plan to do a change of the requirement. Looking at the recent developments that we did in the next slide, we see that we have a requirement review application that was developed and released in November last year in our quarterly shipments, the November release. We already shipped this new functionality here, where the system is helping you to analyze the quality of the text of the requirement itself. It's analyzed in terms of correctness, completeness, and accuracy. For example, you see here that there's a certain rating. In this case here, it's a 4 from 5 stars that you can get here from back automatically from the system. For example, the system, you have in the system a rule that you should specify the requirement using a verb like shall and not must. It can also be about the length. It has to be in a certain range, the requirement, and so on. So all those rules are checked, and you get at the end summed up a certain rating. What we did on top of the November release, you see in the next slide here, we enhanced this review requirement application that we have now added functionalities to customize those rules further. You can define exactly the parameters like what's minimum, maximum length. We have a predefined setting. What's also the priority of this rule in terms of how strongly it's rated into the overall rating of the quality. You can define exactly which terms are allowed, which terms are not allowed, what's company specific on top of standard language that is checked, what you want to allow in your company, and so on. So there's quite a large number of customizing and setting that you can use in your company to customize this requirement quality check. Next slide, please. The other topic that we shipped in February release of EPD is an integration to project management. In the last council, we also we discussed with you about the idea here that we have to integrate the requirement management and also model-based systems engineering with the project management PPM solution from SAP. We saw that I think it was even highest ranked as in terms of interest for developments from your side. In February, we released this integration here. So it's possible from both sides now, from the requirements side, and also that you see here in the screenshot from the left side, you see that there's a project object linked to it. You can connect it to tasks inside projects, and also from the other side, from the project, from the tasks, you can see the linkage. Why do you have that task, or what has to be considered in the task? A certain set of requirements is linked to the project or to specific tasks inside those projects.